Count with me, mister. The pink inhaler clicked between Adrian DeLuca's teeth. 1. The smallest voice in the mansion shook over the marble floor. 2. The most feared mafia boss in New York lay on his back beneath a line of dead chandeliers. One hand clawed around his throat, his black suit twisted, his lips turning a terrible blue. 3. Mia Reyes pressed the inhaler again with both thumbs. She was 6 years old. Her pajamas had yellow moons on them. Her bare knees were white from kneeling on the cold stone. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she did not move away from the dying man. "Breathe," she whispered. "You have to breathe when I count." For 3 years, grown men had obeyed Adrian DeLuca because they feared his name. Now his body obeyed child. His chest jerked. Air tore into him with a sound like paper ripping. Mia gasped and almost fell backward. She held the inhaler to her own chest as if it had burned her. The man on the floor dragged in another breath, then another, each one harsh enough to scrape the silence off the walls. His eyes opened. They were pale gray, hard even through the shock. They found the little girl first. Then the pink plastic clenched in her shaking fist. "Who?" he rasped. "Are you?" Mia swallowed. "I'm Mia. I have asthma too." Footsteps exploded at the far end of the hallway. Elena Reyes came around the corner in a gray cleaning uniform, her hair escaping its pins, a stack of folded towels falling from her arms. The moment she saw her daughter beside Adrian DeLuca's body, the blood left her face. "Mia." The name broke out of her like a wound. Mia turned. "Mama, he was sick." Elena ran, dropped to her knees, and pulled her child against her chest. She put her body between Mia and the man on the floor. It was useless. It was instinct. She knew what kind of house this was. She knew what kind of men stood behind these walls with guns under their jackets and eyes that never forgot a mistake. 2 of those men arrived in the next breath. Marco Vance, head of security, came from the grand stairs with his hand already inside his coat. Silas Vero came from the west corridor, smooth as a blade leaving his sleeve. Silas was tall and silver-haired, dressed in a charcoal suit with a black pocket square. He had introduced himself to Elena that morning as the steward of the DeLuca estate. He had smiled when he said rules kept people alive. He was not smiling now. His pistol cleared leather before Elena could stand. "What is that child doing here?" Elena wrapped both arms around Mia and bent over her. "Please, please don't." The gun pointed at the back of her head. "Unauthorized people do not enter this house," Silas said. "Not servants' children. Not anyone." Mia shook against Elena's chest. The pink inhaler pressed between them. Adrian moved. It was only a lift of his hand, 2 fingers rising from the marble. Yet both armed men saw it. Marco stopped where he stood. Silas went still, though his gun stayed up. "Lower it," Adrian said. His voice was ruined. It still made the hallway colder. Silas did not lower the gun. "Sir." She smuggled a child past 3 security points. "I said lower it." Silas's mouth tightened. Marco stepped closer. "You heard him." For one long second, the only sound in the hallway was Adrian DeLuca trying to breathe. Then Silas lowered his weapon. Elena's body sagged, but she did not release her daughter. She had learned that relief could be a trap. In hospitals, in landlords' offices, in funeral homes, it always arrived 1 second before the next bill. Adrian pushed himself upright. Marco moved to help him, but Adrian cut him off with a look. He got to his knees alone. It cost him. Elena saw it in the tremor along his jaw. He was a dangerous man, yes, but pain still found him. Air still betrayed him. His gaze dropped to Mia. "You used that on me." Mia nodded once. "You were turning blue. You know how. Mama taught me. You press and count, but you have to want the air to come back." Something passed over his face. It was not softness. Not yet. It was the first crack in stone. Adrian turned to Elena. "Your name?" "Elena Reyes." Her voice came out rough. "I work night cleaning. I was hired through Mercer Domestic Staffing. I know I broke the rules. My sitter canceled. My daughter had a fever. I thought I could keep her in the old laundry room until my shift ended. I swear she was never supposed to come upstairs." Silas gave a short laugh without humor. A touching confession. Adrian did not look at him. "Is she sick?" Elena tightened her hold on Mia. "Asthma. A low fever." The basement apartment where we live has mold. Mia lifted her head. The walls are fuzzy. Elena closed her eyes. Adrian stared at the child. Fuzzy walls. Pink inhaler. Bare knees on marble. Once this hallway had heard a little boy laughing. Once, a smaller hand than his had dragged a wooden train across this same floor. Adrian had ordered every toy removed after the fire. He had ordered the music room locked. He had ordered laughter out of the house, as if grief could be managed like a hostile territory. 3 years had passed. He still could not breathe. The east guest wing is empty, he said. Silas turned sharply. Sir, prepare it. For whom? Adrian finally looked at him. Silas lowered his eyes. Adrian turned back to Elena. You and the child will stay there tonight. Elena stared at him. Mr. DeLuca, I can't accept that. You can. Or you could take her back to mold. The words were brutal because they were true. Elena flinched as if slapped. Then Mia's fingers curled into her sleeve, and pride became a luxury she could not afford. Just tonight, Elena whispered. Adrian looked at the inhaler in Mia's hand. Keep that close. Mia nodded solemnly. I always do. For the first time in 3 years, Adrian DeLuca almost smiled. It vanished before anyone could name it. But Silas saw. He stood behind a marble column with the gun back inside his jacket, his face smooth, his eyes fixed on the pink inhaler. A child's plastic toy, cheap enough to buy at any pharmacy, had done what bullets, whiskey, doctors, and fear had failed to do. It had made Adrian DeLuca obey, and that meant the child had become dangerous. Elena Reyes had been warned about the DeLuca mansion before she ever saw its iron gates. The woman at the staffing agency had said the salary was high because discretion was not optional. Elena had understood. She had been a pediatric emergency nurse once, the calm voice in rooms where children could not breathe and parents forgot how to stand. Then her husband Carlos died after 9 days on a machine, and the bills outlived him. 2 years later, she was cleaning rich people's houses at night and counting Mia's inhaler doses by porch light. Their landlord kept promising to fix the mold. He never did. Mia's wheezing grew worse. Elena's savings disappeared 1 prescription at a time. So when Mercer Domestic Staffing offered 4 times her usual rate for a private night position, Elena said yes. Silas Vero gave her the rules on the first day. 3rd floor private, West study private, music room sealed, no phones outside staff quarters, no questions about the family, no children. Then he smiled. Children are allowed in houses built for quiet. Elena hated him instantly, but hate did not pay for albuterol. For 4 weeks, she cleaned the DeLuca mansion from 9 at night until 5 in the morning. She learned the floor plan, the camera sweeps, the staff silences, and the locked music room where Adrian DeLuca sometimes stood with his palm against the door, not trying to open it, not able to leave it. The next evening, Mia's fever came. By midnight, the child's ribs were pulling hard beneath her pajama shirt. Elena called every person she knew. No one could come. Missing work meant losing the job. Missing work meant losing the job. Losing the job meant losing the medication. At 8:40, Elena wrapped Mia in a coat and drove to the DeLuca estate with the heater on high and terror under her tongue. You stay hidden, she told Mia in the old laundry room below the east wing. You do not come out for anything. Mia lay on a folded blanket beside a stack of unused linen carts. Her cheeks were flushed. Her braids stuck to her temples. She held her stuffed rabbit, Nino, under one arm and her pink inhaler in the other hand. What if somebody gets sick? Elena's hand froze on the door. Baby, like me. Elena knelt. Then grown-ups helped them. Mia looked doubtful. She had met many grown-ups who did not help. Elena kissed her forehead. You help yourself tonight. That is your job. Then she locked the laundry room from the outside with a spare service key and went upstairs to clean a house full of men who could kill her for bringing her child inside it. She lasted 43 minutes before the thud came. By the time Elena reached the hallway, Mia had already done what Elena had taught her. Press. Count. Wait for the air. Now, hours later, Elena sat on the edge of a bed in the east guest wing, while Mia slept beside her under blankets softer than anything they owned. The room smelled of cedar drawers and old lavender. A fire burned in the grate, though it was spring outside. Someone had placed a tray on the table. Soup, bread, orange slices. A glass of milk Mia had not touched. Elena did not trust any of it. She checked the windows. Locked. She checked the hallway. 2 guards. She checked Mia's breathing every 3 minutes. At 1:15, a knock came. Elena picked up a brass fireplace poker before she opened the door. Marco stood outside. He glanced at the weapon and did not smile. Good instinct. What do you want? Mr. DeLuca asked me to bring this. He held out a small paper pharmacy bag. Elena did not take it. What is it? Pediatric spacer. Sterile mask. 2 fresh rescue inhalers. Still sealed. The prescription came through a private doctor, but I had the pharmacy label them to your daughter. Elena's throat tightened. I did not ask for that. He knows. And what does he want in return? Marco's eyes moved past her to the sleeping child. I have worked for Adrian DeLuca for 12 years. He does not know how to ask for anything. That is part of the problem. Elena took the bag slowly. Why is the music room locked? Marco's face changed. Just a little. Enough. That is not my story. Then whose is it? A dead woman's. He turned to leave. Mr. Vero wanted us to remove you both tonight, Marco added. Mr. DeLuca said no. Elena looked down the dark hallway. Does Silas always get what he wants? Marco's jaw hardened. Too often. Downstairs, in a library where no servants were allowed after midnight, Silas Vero poured brandy into a crystal glass and did not drink it. He watched the east wing windows from behind velvet curtains. There had been no children in this house for 3 years. No small shoes by doors. No warm milk. No questions that pierced where knives could not. Silas had spent 3 years preserving Adrian DeLuca's grief because grief made men predictable. It kept Adrian inside the empire Sophia had wanted him to leave. The fire had taken Sophia and little Matteo in one orange bloom at the lake house. It had broken Adrian without killing him. It had buried the accounts Sophia had discovered, the proof that Silas had been selling DeLuca shipping routes to the Varelli brothers. Now a child with yellow moons on her pajamas had put air back into the man he had spent 3 years suffocating. Silas set down the untouched glass. On the desk beside it lay a small black notebook. Inside were schedules, medications, guard rotations, and the names of people who could be bought. He wrote one new line, pink inhaler. Then he underlined it twice. The first morning in the East Wing began with Mia asking for cereal. Elena nearly cried. For 2 days, the fever had made every bite a negotiation. Now Mia sat at the kitchen nook in a borrowed sweater, swinging her legs beneath the chair, eating toasted oats from a porcelain bowl with a gold rim. Adrian sat across from her. He had not planned to. He had come into the kitchen at 6 expecting black coffee, silence, and Marco's report. Instead, he found a little girl in moon pajamas sorting cereal pieces by shape while Elena stood stiffly by the stove. Mia looked up. Do you want some? Adrian looked at the cereal. No. Mia nodded, as if this was reasonable. Sometimes I don't want food when breathing is hard. Elena closed her eyes. Mia. What? Adrian sat down. Mia pushed her bowl toward him. You could just try one. Adrian had not eaten breakfast in this room since Matteo died. He took it. Mia watched like a doctor. He put it in his mouth. Good, she said. You did it. Elena covered her mouth and turned toward the sink. Is something wrong? Adrian asked. My daughter just praised the head of the DeLuca family for eating cereal. I am trying not to die of panic. Marco made a sound near the door. It might have been a cough. Mia giggled. The sound moved through the kitchen like a lit match. Adrian stood too quickly. The chair scraped back. His face closed. He walked out before anyone could stop him. The laughter died. Elena started after him, then stopped. Mia looked down at her cereal. Did I do bad? No, baby. You look like the air went away again. Elena touched her daughter's braid. Sometimes air goes away for reasons medicine cannot fix. Adrian made it as far as the locked music room before his lungs turned against him. The hallway narrowed. A fist closed around his breath. Mia's laugh had not sounded like Matteo. That was the cruel part. It had sounded like life itself. He pressed one hand against the music room door. The brass was cold. Behind it sat Sophia's piano beneath a white sheet. Mateo's small violin case was still in the cabinet, though Adrian had never opened it. He had told himself he kept the room locked because grief deserved privacy. The truth was uglier. He kept it locked because if he heard music again, he might survive. And some part of him had not forgiven himself enough to survive. His breath broke. He reached inside his jacket. His own inhaler was not there. He had left it in the study. Fool. Weak. Careless. His knees bent. Then a small hand touched his sleeve. Adrian looked down. Mia stood beside him, holding out the pink inhaler. Elena was behind her, pale and furious and terrified. Mia, she whispered, you do not sneak up on people in this house. Mia ignored the scolding. She stared at Adrian. You forgot yours. Adrian could have refused. He had killed men for seeing less weakness than this. But the room tilted. His chest burned. Mia's hand did not shake this time. Count, she ordered. Elena inhaled sharply. Adrian lowered himself to one knee. Mia placed the inhaler in his hand. 1. He pressed. 2. Air came thinly. 3. The second breath hurt less. Mia watched his face. Better. Adrian closed his eyes. Yes. You have to keep one close. Mama says rescue medicine only works if you can reach it. He looked at the pink plastic in his palm. Your mother is right. Elena stepped forward. Mr. DeLuca, I am sorry. She should not have followed you. She did what no one else in this house does. What is that? She noticed. Elena did not answer. The hallway seemed too quiet around them. Adrian stood slowly, still holding the child's inhaler. His eyes moved to the locked door. Mia followed his gaze. What's in there? A room. A sad room. Adrian's mouth tightened. Yes. Mia nodded. We had one after Daddy died. Elena's face folded with pain. Adrian looked at her. Your husband? 2 years ago. I am sorry. It was not the polite phrase people used at funerals. It came out raw, as if dragged over glass. Elena heard that. So am I, she said softly. For yours. Silence settled between them. Not empty. Careful. Mia placed her small palm on the music room door. Maybe sad rooms need air too. Adrian stared at the door for a long time. Then he gave the pink inhaler back to her. Not today. Tomorrow. He should have said no. Instead, he said maybe. That was the first promise. By the end of the week, Adrian DeLuca had changed 3 habits. He came home before dinner. He kept a rescue inhaler in his left jacket pocket. And he stopped letting Silas pour his drinks. The last change mattered most. Silas noticed it on Tuesday evening, when he entered the study with the usual crystal glass and found Adrian already holding black coffee. No scotch tonight. No. You have barely slept. Then I should be clear. Silas set the glass on the tray. The Varelli brothers are asking for a decision on the waterfront accounts. Tell them to wait. They do not like waiting. Adrian looked up from the ledger in front of him. Then they can practice. Silas smiled. The house has been lively these past few days. Adrian turned a page. Say what you mean. The woman and the child are a distraction. The woman has a name. Elena Reyes is temporary staff. She was a nurse, was Silas said. Now she scrubs floors. The room cooled. Adrian closed the ledger. Be careful. Silas bowed his head. Of course. He left the study with the full glass still on the tray. In the hallway, Marco waited beside a side table, arms folded. Problem? Silas smiled at him. Only dust. Funny. Dust has been moving through this house in strange directions. Their eyes held. Silas walked away first. Marco waited until he was gone, then entered the study without knocking. He is watching them. Adrian looked at the door. I know. Then send them away. No, boss. I sent Sophia away the night she died. Marco fell silent. Adrian's voice dropped. I told myself it was safer. The lake house was quiet. The guard were loyal. The roads were clear. I kissed my son at the door and told him I would come in the morning. His hand tightened on the edge of the desk. I have spent 3 years learning that distance is not protection. Marco nodded once. Then we keep them close. And we find out why Silas is afraid of child. The answer came through a bottle of milk. Mia had begun asking for warm milk before bed because the east wing felt too large at night. Elena did not like taking anything from the kitchen, so she warmed it herself in a small pan and carried it upstairs in a glass bottle. On Thursday, Rosa the cook was sick. Silas moved through the kitchen with unusual kindness, sending staff home early, checking locks, telling Elena she looked tired. "I can have someone bring the milk up tonight," he said. Elena's spine tightened. "Thank you. I have it. You distrust help. I distrust surprises." His smile thinned. A hard way to live. A useful one. She took the bottle upstairs herself. Mia was already asleep when Elena entered. The child had one hand under her cheek and the other wrapped around Nino's floppy ear. Elena set the milk on the nightstand and touched her forehead. No fever. Thank God. She looked at the bottle. Something about the surface bothered her. Too clean. No fingerprint cloud. No kitchen steam mark. A faint medicinal sharpness under the warm milk smell. Old training woke in her hands before fear did. Do not guess. Observe. She carried the bottle to the bathroom, dipped the corner of a white towel into the milk, and touched it to the potted basil plant on the windowsill. It was a foolish test. Not clinical. Not enough. But she had seen enough poisoned toddlers in emergency rooms to know some compounds were cruel to living things quickly. Within 20 minutes, the basil leaves curled inward. Elena's blood went cold. She did not scream. She did not run to Adrian. She poured a sample into a clean travel vial from Mia's nebulizer kit, sealed it, and hid it inside her shoe. Then she took Mia's crayons from the desk and broke the red one in half. Mia woke at the sound. "Mama, baby, I need you to listen." Mia sat up, instantly serious. "Is it breathing?" "No. It is hiding." Elena pressed the broken red crayon into her daughter's palm. "If anyone who is not me or Mr. Adrian tries to take you from this room, you drop this under something. A chair, a curtain, anything. Leave me a red path." Mia's eyes widened. Like Hansel and Gretel, smarter than them. "Am I in trouble?" Elena cupped her face. "No, you are my brave girl." Then she walked down the hallway and found Adrian outside the music room. He took one look at her face and reached for the gun under his jacket. "Who?" Elena held up the vial. "Not yet." The word surprised them both. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Someone touched me as milk. I need proof before you turn this house into a graveyard." "I do not need proof." "Yes, you do." He went very still. Elena stepped closer, shaking now, but not backing down. "If you kill the wrong person, the right one learns how to hide better. If you kill the right person too soon, you never learn who helped him." Marco had appeared at the end of the hall. He heard enough to understand. Adrian looked at Elena as if seeing her for the first time again. Not the cleaner, not the mother. The nurse who had stayed calm while death knocked on children's ribs. "What do you need?" he asked. Elena swallowed. A locked refrigerator. A clean chain of custody. Someone loyal enough to watch Mia's door. And every kitchen camera file from the last hour. Marco said done. Adrian did not move. "Anything else?" Elena looked toward the music room. "Do not stop breathing before we finish this." It was not tender. It hit him harder than tenderness. By midnight, Marco had the camera files. At 12:15, he had the missing 15 minutes. At 1, he found a service override. Only 2 people could shut down the kitchen cameras from inside the estate. Adrian and Silas. Adrian listened in the study while Marco laid out the facts. Elena stood by the window, arms crossed, Mia asleep behind 3 locked doors and 2 armed men. "It is not enough," Marco said. "He will say system maintenance." "The sample?" Adrian asked. "On its way to Dr. Nadir. No official lab. Private." Elena looked at him sharply. Adrian caught it. "No authorities," he said. "Not unless you ask." "I am not asking." "Good." Marco set another file on the desk. "I also pulled the accounts you flagged last month." Adrian opened it. Names. Transfers. Shell companies. A chain of quiet theft moving through restaurants, shipping insurance, and a foundation Sophia had once built for sick children. Sophia's Foundation. Adrian read the name twice. His face emptied. Elena felt the air in the room change. "What is it?" He slid the page toward her. She read enough. Silas had been stealing from a children's respiratory fund established in Sofia, DeLuca's name after Mateo's first pneumonia. It had been inactive since the fire, but donations still came from families who remembered her. Elena understood then why the poisoned milk had felt personal. Mia had not simply saved Adrian. She had reopened the place where Silas had hidden his theft. Adrian stood. Marco moved in front of him. Not tonight. Move. No. The word cracked through the study. Elena looked between them. Marco did not lower his gaze. He wants you stupid. Do not give him the gift. Adrian's hand curled. Elena stepped in before the room snapped. Mia asked me something earlier. Both men looked at her. She asked if bad air can be tricked out of a room. Adrian's eyes stayed on hers. Can it? Yes. You open the right vent. You do not punch the wall. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Marco let out one hard breath. Adrian looked down at the file. Fine. That was the second time he obeyed someone weaker. The third came the next afternoon. Mia had drawn a picture of the mansion with red windows, a black roof, and one tiny stick figure lying in the hall. Beside him, she had drawn a girl with a pink square in her hand. Adrian stood behind her chair and looked down at it. Is that me? Yes. Why am I so small? Because you were on the floor. Marco turned away abruptly. Elena bit the inside of her cheek. Mia added a yellow sun over the roof. This is Mama. This is Mr. Marco. This is you. This is me. Who is that? Adrian pointed to a tall stick figure by the door. Mia had colored him gray. Mia did not look up. Bad, quiet man. Elena's hand stilled. Adrian crouched beside the table. Why do you call him that? Because he smiles without his eyes. And because Nino doesn't like him. You're Rabbit. Nino knows. Adrian studied the gray figure. Did he come near your room? Mia nodded. Elena's voice sharpened. When Mama was talking to Mr. Adrian. He opened the door a little. I was pretending sleep. He looked at my milk. Adrian's face turned lethal. Mia put one small hand on his wrist. Don't make the bad, breathing face. He froze. What? You get mad and then you don't breathe right. She reached into her pajama pocket and took out the pink inhaler. You can hold it if you need. Adrian looked at the inhaler. Then at Elena. Then at the child who had no idea that she was offering a mafia boss mercy in front of his own soldier. He took it, not to use, to prove he could accept it. Thank you, he said. Mia smiled. You're welcome. From the open doorway, Silas watched this exchange in silence. The next morning, he acted. Adrian was due at the old Bellwether Hotel at noon, a DeLuca property near the river that had been closed for renovation. The captains would meet there in the underground ballroom to discuss the waterfront accounts. Silas changed the meeting time. He changed the guest list. He changed the cleaning schedule. Then he sent Elena a message through the house system. East wing ventilation problem. Bring respiratory supplies for child. Mr. DeLuca requests you at Bellwether service entrance. Urgent. Elena read it twice. She knew it was wrong. Adrian never sent messages through the house system. He sent Marco, or he came himself. She reached for her phone. No signal. The east wing had gone dead. In the next room, Mia coughed. Once. Then again. Elena ran. White powder drifted from the ceiling vent above Mia's bed. Not smoke. Not dust. Something fine and deliberate, pouring in soft threads from the grate. Mia sat upright, eyes wide, one hand at her throat. Mama. Elena did not think. She grabbed a pitcher from the bedside table, soaked 2 towels, wrapped one around Mia's nose and mouth, and tied the other over her own. She shoved Mia's inhaler, spacer, and red crayon box into a canvas bag. Arms around my neck. Mia climbed on her back. Elena opened the door. The hallway guards were gone. Of course they were. She moved low, one hand along the wall, counting doors by memory. Smoke alarms stayed silent. Cameras looked dead. A house built for power had become a trap built for a child with bad lungs. At the service stairs, 2 men waited. Not DeLuca guards. Elena saw that in the shoes first. Cheap Sauls. Wrong stance. One reached for her. She swung the canvas bag with every ounce of fear in her body. The metal spacer inside cracked against his cheekbone. He cursed and stumbled. The second man lunged. Mia dropped the red crayon. Elena saw it fall. Good girl. Then a cloth went over Elena's mouth. Chemical sweetness filled her head. She fought until her knees failed. Adrian arrived at the Bellwether Hotel at noon to find the front entrance unlocked and no staff in sight. Marco was beside him, already reaching for his weapon. This is wrong. Adrian's phone buzzed. One photo. Elena in a chair, wrists bound with white cleaning rags. Mia on her lap, a wet towel tied around her face, eyes enormous above it. A pink inhaler on a metal table just out of reach. The message beneath, it was short. Come downstairs alone, or the child runs out of air. Adrian did not move for 3 seconds. When he spoke, his voice had no heat at all. Seal the exits. Marco nodded. Already moving. No outside uniforms. No sirens. No blue lights. Understood. My people only. And Elena? Adrian stared at the photo. Elena's right hand was curled strangely against the chair leg. Not helpless. Pointing. On the floor beneath her chair was a red mark. A crayon line. Adrian enlarged the photo. Another red mark near the door. Mia had left a trail. His chest tightened. Not from asthma this time. From pride, so sharp it hurt. She is already helping us. Below the Bellwether Hotel, the old ballroom smelled of damp velvet, dust, and machine oil. Plastic sheets hung from the ceiling like dead curtains. A row of portable work lights cut white rectangles across the floor. Elena blinked herself awake with Mia shivering against her. Her wrists were tied, not rope. Linen strips from the hotel laundry. Silas had taste even when he committed crimes. He stood near the metal table, sleeves rolled, expression calm. 4 armed men waited by the pillars. More moved in the shadows beyond the plastic sheets. You are awake, Silas said. Elena pulled Mia closer. You put powder through a child's bedroom vent. A mild irritant. She will live if everyone behaves. Mia's breath rattled under the wet towel. Elena's eyes went to the pink inhaler on the table. Too far. Silas noticed. No, she needs it. She will need many things in life. We rarely get all of them. Elena looked at him with hatred clean enough to steady her hands. Why? Because Adrian was becoming soft. Because a child saved him. Because Sophia did. Elena went still. Silas smiled. He told you about the wife, but not the lesson. Sophia wanted him out of the life. She found accounts she should not have found. She believed love made men brave. It only made her predictable. Elena forced herself not to look at Mia. You killed her. I corrected a course. And Matteo? For the first time, something unpleasant moved through Silas's eyes. Collateral grief is still useful grief. Mia's small body went rigid. You killed a kid? Silas looked down at her. Children wander into adult wars. Mia lifted her chin. No, bad men bring wars to children. The word struck the room harder than she knew. Elena felt them in her bones. Silas stepped closer. Careful, little girl. Mia coughed behind the towel. Her eyes watered. Still, she pointed one shaking finger at him. You say sorry. Silas stared. For one impossible second, every armed man in the ballroom looked at the child instead of the door. Elena used that second. She twisted her right wrist against the chair leg where she had hidden a shard of broken ceramic from the floor. The linen cut. Skin opened. She kept sawing. Above them, the service elevator chimed. Silas turned. Adrian DeLuca stepped out alone. No jacket. White shirt. Black trousers. Hands open. The pink inhaler sat on the table between him and the child. His eyes found Elena first. Then Mia. Then the towel over her mouth. Something in his face changed. Not rage. Rage was too simple. This was a door closing forever. Let them breathe, Adrian said. Silas smiled. Still dramatic. Let them breathe. You are in no position to give orders. You mistake position for power. Silas gestured. 2 men seized Adrian's arms. One took the gun from his waistband. Another found the knife at his ankle. A third pulled the spare inhaler from his left pocket and tossed it onto the floor. Silas laughed softly. She taught you to carry one. Adrian said nothing. Beautiful. Truly. A sick child trained a king to reach for plastic. Mia coughed again. Harder. Adrian's gaze flicked to her. Silas saw it. There he is, Silas whispered. The man Sophia ruined. The man this child revived. I should thank her before she stops breathing. Elena's wrist came free. She did not move yet. Adrian looked at Silas. You kill my wife. Yes. And my son. Yes. The ballroom held its breath. Adrian closed his eyes once. When he opened them, they were not empty. That was what frightened Silas. For 3 years, Adrian's grief had been a room without windows. Now, someone had opened all of them. Sophia wanted the respiratory foundation audited. Adrian said, You use it to hide payments. Silas's smile thinned. She was bright. You burned her for it. I saved this family from a woman who thought morality could survive money. No, Elena said. Every head turned. Her right hand was free behind Mia's back. Her left still appeared bound. You saved yourself from being seen. Silas's eyes narrowed. Elena kept speaking because Adrian needed time, and Mia needed air, and fear could wait its turn. That is why you hate my daughter. Not because she saved him, because she saw you. Children do that. They see the thing adults are paid not to notice. Mia whispered through the towel, Bad, quiet man. Adrian almost smiled. Silas struck him across the mouth. Blood marked Adrian's lower lip. Mia cried out. The sound broke his control for 1 second. His lungs clenched. Smoke from the old machines drifted across the room. Dust. Irritant. Memory. His breath shortened. Silas watched, delighted. There it is. The great Adrian DeLuca. The man no bullet could scare. Dying because a room got dusty. Mia twisted in Elena's lap. Mama. Wait. Elena breathed. He needs it. I know. Adrian's knees bent. One of Silas's men laughed. Mia did not wait. She slipped out from under Elena's loosened arm, small and fast, the wet towel falling from her face. She hit the floor on bare feet and ran for the table. Mia. Elena's scream tore loose. Silas turned, but the child was already there. She grabbed the pink inhaler. An armed man reached for her. Elena kicked the chair sideways into his knees, breaking the last strip from her left wrist as she fell. Adrian moved at the same time. He drove his bound hands up under the chin of the man, holding him. Bone cracked. The man's gun hit the floor. Mia darted under the metal table. Mr. Adrian. The inhaler skidded across the polished concrete. It spun once, stopped against Adrian's shoe. He was bent double, breath gone, hands still tied in front of him by a plastic restraint. He looked at the inhaler, then at Mia, crawling out from under the table with one hand pressed to her own chest. She needed it too. He shook his head. No. Mia coughed. Count. Mia. Count. It was not a plea. It was a command. The little girl who had dragged him back from death in his own hallway now stood in a room full of guns and ordered him to live. Adrian obeyed. 1. He pressed the inhaler. 2. Air came, thin and burning. 3. His vision cleared. Elena had reached Mia. She wrapped the wet towel back over her daughter's mouth and shoved a second rescue inhaler from the canvas bag into the spacer. She had hidden it inside Nino's torn belly that morning before they were taken. Silas had not searched the rabbit. Elena pressed it to Mia's face. Breathe, baby. 1. Mia inhaled. 2. Another breath. 3. The work lights exploded. Not all at once. In sequence. Pop, pop, pop. Darkness cut the ballroom into screams. Marco's voice came from the service corridor. Down. Adrian dropped over Elena and Mia as his men entered through 3 doors. No sirens. No uniforms. No mercy wasted. Smoke thickened. Gunfire cracked short and controlled. Men shouted. Glass rained from chandelier wrapped in plastic. Elena kept one hand over Mia's head and the other pressed the spacer to her face. Again, she said. 1. Mia breathed. 2. Adrian took the gun from the floor and fired once over their heads. A man fell behind the bar. 3. Marco reached them through the smoke. Exit left. Adrian shook his head. Silas. Boss. Get them out. Elena grabbed Adrian's sleeve. No, Elena. You do not get to walk into death after my daughter used her last good breath on you. The words hit him harder than the smoke. Mia clutched his trouser leg. You promised you would breathe. Adrian looked down. There it was. The third obedience. He wanted blood. He wanted Silas under his hands. He wanted 3 years of graves answered by one final sound. But Mia's fingers were on his leg. Elena's hand was on his sleeve. Sophia had wanted clean hands. Matteo had once asked if bad men could become good if somebody held their hand long enough. Adrian lowered the gun. Marco. Yes. Take him alive if he lets you. Dead if he reaches. Marco nodded. They moved through the service passage together. Elena first with Mia in her arms. Adrian behind them. Marco covering the rear. At the stairwell, Silas stepped from the smoke. He held a knife in one hand and Elena's canvas medical bag in the other. You disappoint me, he said to Adrian. Adrian placed himself between Silas and the child. Good. You had an empire. I had a cage. You had fear. I mistook it for respect. Silas's eyes cut to Mia. And now? Mia lifted her face from Elena's shoulder. Her voice was small. It still carried. Now he has people who help him breathe. Silas lunged. Adrian moved to meet him, but Elena was faster. She swung the canvas bag by its strap. The metal spacer, inhaler case, and roll of medical tape inside struck Silas's wrist with a sharp crack. The knife spun away. Marco fired one shot into the floor beside Silas's foot. Silas froze. Adrian took 2 steps and hit him once. Not a beating, not a storm. One controlled blow. Silas fell against the wall and slid down, blood at his mouth, shock in his eyes. Adrian crouched in front of him. Sophia found your theft. Elena found your poison. Mia found your truth. Silas spat red. A cleaner and a sick child. Yes. Adrian stood. That is why you lost. Marco's men bound Silas with his own linen strips. No outside authority was invited. By dawn, Silas Vero was alive in a locked room beneath a DeLuca warehouse, guarded by men who had loved Sophia more than they had ever feared Silas. By noon, every account he had built was emptied and turned over to Sophia's foundation. By sunset, the Varelli brothers received copies of Silas's confessions, his ledgers, and one simple message from Adrian DeLuca. The old arrangements are dead. Do not knock on my door unless your hands are clean. Some men laughed. Some doubted. 2 tried to test him. By the end of the week, no one doubted. Adrian did not become harmless. That would have been a lie. He was still a man who could end a threat with one sentence. He still had soldiers, money, and enemies who whispered his name carefully. But the violence changed shape. It no longer fed the empire. It guarded the door. For 3 days after the Bellwether Hotel, Mia slept in Elena's arms. She woke coughing. She woke crying. She woke asking if the bad quiet man had found the stairs. Adrian slept in a chair outside their room, with the pink inhaler in his hand. The first night, Elena found him there and said, "You have a bedroom." His eyes opened at once. "I'm the reason she was taken." "No," Elena said. "Silas took her because he was evil. You gave him access because grief made you blind. Those are not the same thing." Adrian looked at the inhaler in his palm. Sophia used to say, "I treated guilt like furniture. I kept moving it into every room, then stopped decorating with it." For the first time, he laughed. It was quiet, rough, barely there, but it was real enough that Elena felt it in her chest. Mia called from inside, half asleep. "Is Mr. Adrian there?" He stood before Elena could answer. "You didn't go?" Mia asked when he entered. "No." "Good. You can sit until I sleep." Adrian waited for Elena's permission. That, more than anything, weakened her knees. She nodded. He sat beside Mia. She took his sleeve in her fist. "If the air goes away," she murmured, "we count." Adrian looked down at her hand. "Yes." On the 4th day, Adrian unlocked the music room. He did it without announcing it. Elena found him in the hallway with the key in his hand and Mia beside him in socks. "She negotiated," he said. Mia nodded. "I said sad rooms need air." Elena looked at the 3 brass locks. "Do they?" "Apparently." Adrian turned the first key. The lock clicked. His breath shortened. Mia immediately held up the pink inhaler. "Just in case." He took it and nodded. The second lock opened. Then the third. The door swung inward. Dust floated in the sunlight. The room smelled of old wood, covered velvet, and grief that had been left too long without windows. A grand piano stood beneath a white sheet. On the shelf beside it sat a small violin case. Elena saw Adrian's hand curl at his side. Mia walked in first. Children did that with ruins. They entered them before adults finished being afraid. She touched the edge of the sheet. Can I? Adrian could not speak. Elena answered softly. Gently. Mia pulled. The sheet slid from the piano in a slow white fall. Sunlight struck the black wood. Adrian made a sound. Not a sob. Not yet. Mia climbed onto the bench and pressed one key. A single note rose into the room. It was not beautiful. It was not music. It was proof that silence could end. Adrian's knees bent. Elena caught his arm before he could step back. He did not pull away. Breathe, she whispered. He tried. Failed. Mia pressed another key. Count, she said. Elena took his hand. 1. Mia pressed the key again. 2. Adrian closed his eyes. 3. His chest rose. Fully. The breath shook him from throat to ribs. It hurt. It freed. It filled places that grief had boarded shut. He opened his eyes with tears on his face. Mia stared at him in wonder. He did a big breath. Adrian laughed once, broken and bright. I did. Elena's fingers were still in his. Neither of them let go. The weeks that followed did not turn pain into a fairy tale. Mia still woke afraid of Vince. Elena still checked every bottle before it touched her daughter's mouth. Adrian still stood sometimes outside the music room, unable to enter. Healing did not erase. It taught the body a new route. Adrian moved Elena and Mia into the East Wing properly. Not as staff, not as charity, but as guests whose names were written into the house schedule with the same ink as his own. Elena agreed to help rebuild Sophia's respiratory foundation as a free clinic for children whose parents had learned to count medicine doses by price. Marco became security director and wore Mia's handmade badge, vice president of breathing, because she asked. The mansion changed one room at a time. The kitchen nook filled first. The music room changed next. At first, Mia only pressed single keys. Then Elena found a teacher willing to come twice a week and not ask why two armed men stood outside the door. Soon uneven scales moved through the halls in the afternoon. Wrong notes. Wonderful notes. Adrian never asked her to stop. One evening, Elena found him sitting at the piano after Mia's lesson, one hand resting on the keys. Sophia played? She asked. Every morning. And Matteo? He hated violin practice. Loved applause. Elena smiled softly. A reasonable child. Adrian looked at the keys. I thought loving you would betray her. The words entered the room quietly and stayed. Elena's breath caught. He looked up. I am sorry. That was too much. No. She stepped closer. It was honest. I do not know how to do this cleanly. Neither do I. Carlos. I still talk to him when Mia sleeps badly. Adrian nodded. I talk to Sophia when I cannot breathe. Elena sat beside him on the bench. Maybe that means they are still part of the air. His hand moved over the keys, not pressing. Mia said something today. That is usually dangerous. She said home is where people help you breathe. Elena closed her eyes. There it was. Children named things adults circled for years. She is right, Elena whispered. Adrian turned to her. Stay. It was not a command. That mattered. Adrian, not because you need shelter. Not because Mia needs medicine. Stay because this house breathes when you are in it. Elena felt tears rise and did not look away. I am afraid. So am I. You are still dangerous. Yes. And I am tired of dangerous men making promises women have to pay for. He took that without flinching. Then do not pay for mine. Test them. Her laugh broke around sob. You make romance sound like a contract. I'm better with contracts. You are terrible with feelings. I know. She touched the pink inhaler lying on the piano beside the sheet music. Mia had left it there as she left little pieces of herself everywhere now. A ribbon, a crayon, a rabbit ear poking from under cushions. Elena picked it up. This saved your life. Twice. It saved hers too. Yes. Then understand what it means. I do not want a throne. I do not want guards outside every door. I want my daughter to sleep without checking the vents. Then that is what I will build. And if I say no, his eyes softened in a way that still startled her. Then I will keep the clinic funded, keep the mold out of your apartment, keep Silas buried under his own crimes, and never make your life smaller for refusing me. Elena believed him. That was the dangerous part. She set the inhaler down and leaned forward. Their first kiss was not dramatic. No thunder, no gunfire, no empire falling. Only a quiet room, a silent piano, and two people who had both mistaken grief for loyalty. Adrian touched her cheek, as if asking permission again. Elena gave it by staying. At the doorway, Mia whispered loudly, "Are you kissing?" Elena jumped. Adrian closed his eyes. Marco's voice came from farther down the hall. "I told her not to interrupt." "You did not," Mia said. "I implied it. That is not telling." Elena pressed her forehead to Adrian's shoulder and laughed until she cried. Adrian looked at the ceiling as if Sophia herself might be laughing at him. Maybe she was. 6 months after the hallway, snow fell over the DeLuca estate. The mansion no longer looked like a tomb. Warm light filled the east wing. Music wandered from the open piano room. The kitchen smelled of cinnamon because Rosa had decided Mia looked too thin and required constant pastry surveillance. Adrian stood in the foyer, watching Mia hang a paper inhaler ornament on the Christmas tree. It was pink, crooked, glitter-covered. "That is a strange ornament," he said. Mia stepped back to admire it. "It is the most important one." "Is it?" "Yes. It is how we found you." Elena entered from the hallway with 2 mugs of tea. She heard the last words and stopped. Adrian looked at her over Mia's head. There had been no formal proposal, no sudden adoption, no promise made too fast to be trusted. There had been dinners, bad piano lessons, clinic days, nightmares, arguments, and breathing. There had been a life becoming real because everyone stayed long enough to build it. Mia climbed onto the lowest stair and faced them both. "I made a rule." Elena raised an eyebrow. "You did?" "Yes. In this house, nobody breathes alone." Adrian's throat worked. Elena set down the mugs. "That is a good rule." Mia nodded, satisfied. "It is the family rule." Adrian knelt in front of her, carefully now because old injuries still reminded him of the Bellwether Hotel when it rained. "Then I will obey it." Mia threw her arms around his neck. He held her with one arm and reached for Elena with the other. Elena came to him. The 3 of them stood beneath the crooked pink ornament, while snow pressed softly against the windows and music drifted from a room that had once been locked. Adrian breathed in, fully, freely. Home did not erase the dead. It gave the living somewhere to carry them. If one small hand can change an empire, which moment stayed with you? Subscribe for the next Boss Love Storylines episode.